Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much, the Executive Director. And thanks also for all the stakeholders seated here. As you are aware, this is our first participation at this meeting, so forgive us if our arrangement is a bit different. The importance for us is that we are here to share with you a bit what we do and the type of business that we do with the commodity sector, and also to learn from you what we are doing and how we can work together, especially countries from Africa, to improve the coffee sector in this part of the world. So essentially, it's my two colleagues who will be making the presentation, but who will be happy to interact with you later to answer questions that you may want to raise either in this forum or privately, one-to-one, when we have a break. So I will call my colleagues to make the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll start the presentation now. I want to take a few of the words what we just said, and again encourage everybody to interact on a one-on-one basis with all the representatives of the different organizations that we have this morning and the ones we have in the afternoon that I will introduce later. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ewek. I am working in the Treasury Department, and I'm responsible for designing financial product compliance. And as Director said, I'm going to give a presentation announced by Benedict from the Agricultural Department. For the sake of time, I'm going to jump directly into the presentation. Let's start with the vision of the bank over the next 10 years. It's a vision that aims to, build or help Africa transform, and this is done through two main objectives: inclusive growth. We want to make economic or enhance or improve the economic conditions of Africans, irrespective of the age, the gender. Or the second element of this vision is transition to green growth. We cannot afford to grow and then is to build a resilient economy, to better manage natural resources, and also develop sustainable infrastructure. This vision is implemented through 5 core priorities. Infrastructure development. We are well known as an infrastructure bank. Every year, between 50 and 70% of the bank approvals are in the infrastructure sector. We also have private sector development. It's a significant portion of the portfolio now. So every year we approve around 1.5 billion in private sector operations. We have governance, skill and technology, and also regional integration. There are 3 areas of special emphasis in the bank. Gender, which is very important to our board. Fragile state, we have a continual approach for fragile state. And last but not least, agricultural and food security. So you will see that agriculture is part of our vision, our strategy for the next 10 years. Now, what are the different windows of the bank? We have basically 3 main windows. The African Development Bank, which was created back in 1964. All African countries are shareholders of the bank, de facto. But we also have non-regional member countries. It is important to mention that if Nigeria is the largest shareholder of the bank, the second one is actually the US, and the third is Japan, then Egypt. The authorized capital of the ADB is $103 billion. ADB is the entity which is AAA rated, which borrows from commercial market and on land at commercial terms to countries. Alongside the ADB, you have the African Development Fund, which is the concessional window of the bank. It was created back in '72. It's mostly financed through donor contribution. So we have 27 donor countries contributing to the ADF, and also 4 African countries, South Africa, Angola, Libya, and Egypt. And then finally, the Nigeria Trust Fund, which was created in '76 under the aegis of the federal government of Nigeria to invest alongside ADB and ADF. Now, how are we organized? Not every country has access to all the windows. So the criteria to differentiate them is 2 main criteria similar to the World Bank. We have an income criteria. The GDP per capita needs to be above a certain threshold, and then creditworthy. So if a country meets the 2 criteria, the income criteria and creditworthiness, that country has access to ADB, which is the commercial window of the bank. There you have 17 countries in green in this slide, all the North African countries from Morocco till Egypt. On the southern part you have Angola, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, and Swaziland. And in the center, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Congo, Nigeria. These are the countries that have access to ADB. The rest of the continent in yellow are low-income countries. They have access to the EDF, meaning that they get concessional loans or grants depending on their sustainability. And you have two exceptions, Cameroon and Zambia on the slide. These are blend countries. They can borrow from the ADB and the ADF at the same time. In terms of suite of products, I mean, my colleague from the other MDBs already mentioned, we have a similar menu of products ranging from lending products, loan, we can provide loans to the ADB or ADF, to the government or to the private sector. We will talk about it. Guarantees that are there to mitigate the risk of investment in Africa. We all know that the perception of Africa is not something which is, how to put it, well known in the world. I mean, investors continue to require an additional premium, 10 to 50% for investment in Africa compared to other side of the world. So they ask for guarantees in order to do that, and the bank can provide a guarantee. We have equity. We can provide direct equity, obviously, but also mezzanine, convertible debt on this kind of type of investment. Risk management product, obviously. Trade finance, and various type of technical assistance firm. Before continuing to present the menu of product of the bank, my colleague will come to make a slight introduction on what we do in the agribusiness.
Thank you. Good morning again. My name is Benedict. I'm from the Public Sector Department of the African Development Bank. I'm a manager in the department. Now, agriculture is at the helm of the work of the bank as it promotes development and fights poverty over the next 10 years. And we do this in a variety of ways. Under the strategy, the 10-year strategy from 2013 to 2022, we have embarked and will continue to embark on an integrated value chain approach, vertically integrated value chain approach in promoting agriculture in Africa. We'll do this by ensuring that we support the infrastructure, farm production, i.e. irrigation and related water facilities, to transportation of farm produce into market centers, storage, and the related value addition and post-harvest loss reduction aspect of it. We'll also be involved in power generation, rural power generation, to ensure that we support the economic activities at the farm level and beyond. Now, we are preparing a new strategy. We expect it to go to board very soon. And the three core pillars of the strategy are as follows. Agriculture, infrastructure, which I just talked about, agribusiness and innovation, as well as resilience and sustainable natural resource management. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our focus on agriculture infrastructure is along the entire value chain. We support our clients on the farm and also assist to evacuate their production to ensure that it reaches markets, provide markets to them. We assist to store such production, assist to add value to them, to such production, and assist to reduce post-harvest losses, which are an integral part of the challenges that our clients are facing in Africa. Now, we also, as I mentioned earlier on, promote rural electrification. Innovation in agribusiness. SMEs are extremely vital to fighting poverty and promoting inclusive growth in Africa. We are embracing them. We are supporting SMEs as well as larger agribusinesses to fulfill the objectives of inclusive growth in Africa and sustainably. And we do that in various aspects as outlined in the second column of the presentation, i.e. providing market access, i.e. providing investment for value addition and connectivity, ensuring that inputs reach farmers to promote productivity, on-farm productivity, developing skills for farmers, including our the women and the youth, as well as facilitating access to financial services for the farming community. Now, on resilience and natural resource management, we do appreciate the fact that a lot of our regional member countries grapple with unsustainable production as a result of various factors, man-made and natural factors. We therefore work with them to ensure that we promote more sustainable production. We fight deforestation. We promote forest conservation. We promote improved soil, water, and waste management. And we ensure that we work with them to reduce the vulnerability to price volatilities, etc., etc. So this is the thrust of our new policy over the next 4 years, basically. Let me now hand over to my colleague again to support various aspects of the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Benedict. Now, in terms of loan product, I mentioned the classification, the breakdown of countries with respect to the different windows, ADB, ADF. So what are the terms that are available to them? For the ADB's country, the 17th country in green that you remember of, they can have access to a loan with a maximum maturity of 25 years, with 8-year grace period. And the pricing formula is the one that you can see. It's a bit complicated, but on average, for a 20-year loan, they can get funding at LIBOR plus 60. Now, for low-income countries, which is the bulk of the continent, most of the countries represented here, depending on their classification internally, whether they are regular or advanced country, they get a loan with a maximum maturity of 40 years or 10-year grace period, or 40 years and 5-year grace period. So very long-term loans. So in the coffee sector, like in all the agricultural sector, as long as you operate with government, the message here is that you can come and borrow very long-term financing from the bank group windows. Now, on the non-sovereign side, as I already mentioned, a significant component of the bank operation are also done under the private sector side. There, the loan product is called the fixed spread loan, and the maximum maturity is 5 years, including is 15 years, including 5-year grace period. The currencies are the one that you are very familiar with, euro, dollar, JP1 rand. And we've been funding different sectors, financial intermediation, for instance, agribusiness, obviously, like Indorama in Nigeria. Infrastructure also, it's a significant component. It is important to mention that under the private sector window, we can also provide local currency loans. So if ever you are in the coffee sector and you want a loan in Uganda shilling or CFA, you can come to the bank and get that loan. Equity, it's also an important instrument of the bank. We can take equity shareholding in your company involved in the agricultural sector. As I already mentioned, we can take direct equity, or we can take something which is a bit more structured, subordinated convertible debt. But we also invest a lot in private equity funds. We have over 1 billion investment in private equity fund, and some of them are involved in the agribusiness. I guess the Moringa Fund is involved in more than 8 agricultural projects across the continent. Guarantees. Guarantees is a way for the bank to provide funding to a project indirectly. So in some of the projects, the bank will not give the funding, but it will provide the guarantee to a bank to enable the bank lend to you directly. So we have the 2 types of product, what we call the political risk guarantee instrument, which cover the risk of the government. Whenever there is an undertaking from the government to your project, we can cover all those undertakings. But there is also the partial credit guarantee, which is there to enable either the state-owned entities or even the private sector in agribusiness to borrow from banks. So if ever you have a private company involved, that is raising money from the financial market or from a commercial bank, you can come and ask for a guarantee from the ADB in that respect. One very interesting instrument that we also have in the bank is the trade finance program. In February 2013, the bank approved a 1 billion trade finance program to run over 4 years. And under that trade finance program, we have 3 main initiatives, what we call the risk participation agreement, the trade finance line of credit, and the soft commodity financing. I guess what is more interesting for you is the soft commodity financing. It's actually a funded trade finance instrument that covers import and export of commodity in and out of Africa. So what the bank does is the bank deals directly with aggregators. They are in all of our countries. You can have it in the coffee sector, in the cocoa sector. And this aggregator can come to the bank to borrow funding to finance export or import of commodity from your country. We already had a transaction with, I guess, Cocoa Board in Ghana, but all the other commodity aggregators are welcome to borrow from the bank. These commodity aggregators are not necessarily financial institutions. Sometimes they can be cooperative, they can be state-owned entities, and they can come to borrow from the bank. The most important element here is that this aggregator needs to be eligible for private sector funding from the bank. So it needs to operate commercially. This is very important. Have balance sheet, autonomous financing. So if you have your aggregator in your country that meets some of those criteria, you can come and get funding from the bank. You will be getting 2-year funding to fund the import and export of commodity. Another important line is the trade finance line of credit. It's not directly to you, but to the bank in your countries. Those banks can receive trade finance line of credit from the African Development Bank, and it will be used to fund pre- or post-export in the country. It's a standard line of credit transaction, meaning that the bank comes and gets an insecure line from the bank, and it's being used for funding the agricultural sector or the trade financing in the country. The risk participation agreement is another way for us to incentivize trade financing, and it's also for the agricultural sector, meaning the coffee sector. There we will be guaranteeing a portfolio of conforming banks in Europe. For instance, I mean, the banks like Société Générale, who are very involved in the coffee sector in Côte d'Ivoire, Cameroon, they can fund operations directly in the country with a guarantee from us. So it's another way for us to provide indirectly financing to the agricultural sector and the coffee sector in the different African countries. Now, I guess Benedict will continue. That's part of the presentation.
Well, I'm back. We don't only rely on our core financing to support development activities in Africa. We also exploit trust funds entrusted onto us by our partners elsewhere. Now, I'll give you 2 examples. We have quite a number of them, so I'll just give you 2 examples. One of them is the Agricultural Fast Track Fund, established in 2014, with support from 2-3 partners, USAID, SIDA, and Denmark. And the idea here is to promote a pipeline of private investment proposals to support agricultural infrastructure deficit in Africa. We firmly believe that supporting the agricultural infrastructure in Africa is the way to go to foster long-term development. Now, how does this work? One, we have a number of countries which are the target countries that we have considered in the initial call for proposals. We have Tanzania, Ethiopia, Mozambique. We have Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire. These are countries which have already signed up to the New Alliance for Agriculture and Food and Nutrition Security. These are the initial countries that we have supported. Average grant size, approximately $500,000. It is basically intended to support the private entities. We launch calls for proposals, and these are advertised in the websites of this trust fund, Agricultural Fast Track Trust Fund, and entities can apply, and they will be considered transparently and competitively, amongst others. Now, let's move to the Congo Basin Forest Fund. Congo Basin Forest Fund is older. It's intended to assist the 10 Congo Basin countries grapple with challenges of climate change. Basically, how these countries, the communities in these countries, live in and benefit from the basin forest resources, and also how their governments manage such resources. We have had 2 or 3 calls for proposals in the past, and the idea is the beneficiaries are mostly regional NGOs in Africa, African governments, and international NGOs, of course, engaged in promoting forest conservation and grappling with matters related to climate change. Average grant size will range from, say, $100,000 euros to 7 million euros. The Congo Basin Forest Fund has a dedicated website. Interested entities could consult the website for more information. Now, we are very serious about the sustainable development impacts of our operations. In doing so, we strive for high quality results, not only for short-term results, but long-term results. As a result, the African Development Bank is the only development finance institution that has benefited from US Treasury awards intended to recognize development impact, long-term development impact and result of some of its operations, 2 at a time. I'll just give you an idea of one, the Uganda Community Agricultural Infrastructure Improvement Program. This is an infrastructure entity, an infrastructure operation, which has produced some solid results. I will highlight the 3-4 results which were acknowledged by the US Treasury Department. 1, travel time between farms and markets. 2, cost of transportation. 3, reduction in post-harvest losses. 4, reduction in, increase in producer prices. Of course, the implications for net income for farmers are clear. So this was recognized by the US Treasury. We thought we would give you an example of some winning operation to demonstrate to you how serious we are about not only extending development assistance, but making sure the results are tangible. Now, the bank has supported a variety of sectors. The oil palm in Ghana, rubber and plant and oil palm again in Gabon. There are pipeline operations again in oil palm. There is a lake harvest in Zimbabwe, and there's a pipeline. There is a pipeline operation, the Bagamoyo operation in Tanzania. Now, the bottom line here is we are looking at operations that not only provide jobs, but ensure that market access is assured for farmers groups. Now, we focus on outgrowers for both the oil palm and the sugar, and we provide them with capacity, increased capacity to produce. 1, technology, improved technology for inputs, extension support, and a more reliable market access. So, again, jobs, technology, increased productivity and output, increased incomes, and of course, enhanced sustainable development and inclusive growth. Let me ask my colleague to come and help again in this. Or is this yours or is mine? Yes. It's mine. Good. I think I'm gouging. I've been talking too much. Now, our trade finance program has successfully extended development finance to entities across various commodities, be it coffee, cocoa, sugar, wheat, soybean, etc., etc. And by and large, the idea is to respond to one of the greatest challenges that our African private sector experiences, which is sustainable finance. Affordable finance, finance that is long-term in terms of its nature, and finance that is tilted to respond to the realities of the sector concerned and the risk associated with such a sector. Now, let us move forward in wrapping up. What needs to be done? What still needs to be done? One single institution cannot successfully address all the development challenges that Africa faces, either in agriculture or other sectors. Within agriculture, be it coffee, cocoa, cotton, or other commodities. One single institution cannot respond successfully to such challenges. We therefore need to partner, first identify what the African Development Bank can do best, what the World Bank can do best, what bilateral governments can do best, what NGOs can do best, what private entities can do best, and then work together to respond to the challenges. So, what needs to be done? There is need for trade finance guarantees, storage facilities in support of the coffee sector. and making sure those millions of smallholder farmers who dominate production in Africa, in 25 countries or so, major coffee producing countries in Africa, benefit the most, and making sure that benefits are more inclusive. Now, is this yours again or mine? Yours and mine. You want to take it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let me take a break.
I mean, as a strategic partner, agriculture is very important for the bank. You can see that in 2014, we approved 135 million critical financing for agri project in the private sector window. And we have a diversified menu of instruments in that respect. We presented to you what we can do on the public sector side, so working with the government on ADB or ADF. We also mentioned something that was very important for you. It's working with the aggregator that you have in your country. So all the aggregators that never come to ADB to request for funding, if you have a body which is well regulated, which is operating commercially in your country, you can come and get funding from the bank in that respect. There are different entities that can work with you. We have the private sector window, obviously, the name of the director of the private sector window is there, Mrs. Kodedia, but also on the public sector window, Mr. Shiji is here. You can send him an email if you want funding for the coffee sector from the bank. Thank you very much.